My girlfriend posted, "Heartbroken and alone," with a photo, suggesting I ignored her at home. I stayed silent. Then I shared doorbell footage showing she was hanging out with friends, smiling and laughing the entire time. When her boss saw the truth, things got awkward fast. I'm 30 years old, work in IT consulting, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had a pretty solid relationship. My girlfriend Sarah and I had been together for 2 years. We lived in separate apartments but spent most weekends together, alternating between her place and mine. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized firm downtown, made decent money, and we'd started talking about moving in together early next year. Everything seemed normal. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs, but hindsight is always perfect, isn't it? It started on a Friday evening. I had to work late because we had a client emergency that needed immediate attention. I texted Sarah around 6 to let her know I wouldn't make it to her place until at least 10. She responded with, "Okay, babe, I'll be here waiting. Miss you already." Pretty standard stuff. I figured she'd order takeout, watch Netflix, and we'd have a late night together when I finally got there. Around 9:30, while I was still troubleshooting server issues, my phone started blowing up. Not with texts from Sarah, but with notifications from Instagram, Facebook, and even LinkedIn. Friends, co-workers, even my cousin who barely uses social media were tagging me in comments or sending me screenshots. I ignored them at first because I was in the middle of fixing a critical problem, but during a brief lull, I checked. Sarah had posted a photo on Instagram. It was her, sitting on her couch in dim lighting, looking sad and disheveled. The caption read, "Heartbroken and alone again tonight." When your partner chooses work over you every single time, you start to wonder if you even matter, feeling invisible in my own relationship. I stared at my phone, completely confused. Every single time? We'd had this exact conversation about understanding each other's work commitments. She knew this was an emergency. The post had already gotten over 200 likes and dozens of comments from her friends saying things like, "You deserve better, girl. He doesn't appreciate you, and leave his ass. You're too good for him." I felt my blood pressure rising, but I didn't respond. Not to her, not to anyone. I finished the work around 10:15, packed up my stuff, and drove to her apartment. The entire drive, I kept thinking about how to approach this. Should I be angry? Should I ask her what that post was about? I decided to just see what she'd say when I got there. I pulled into her apartment complex at 10:40. That's when I noticed something. Her car was there, but all the lights in her apartment were off, completely dark. I sat in my car for a minute, confused. If she was home alone and heartbroken like she'd posted, wouldn't at least one light be on? I walked up to her door and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. I tried calling her phone. It rang once, then went to voicemail. That's when I knew she'd declined the call. I stood there for probably 5 minutes, knocking periodically, calling twice more. Both times, declined immediately. Finally, I left. But here's the thing about my car. I'd installed a dash cam a few months ago after someone hit my car in a parking lot and drove off. It has a parking mode that activates when it detects motion near the vehicle. As I was sitting in my car trying to figure out what just happened, I remembered something else. Sarah had a Ring doorbell. I'd helped her install it 6 months ago, and she'd added me to the app so I could see who was at her door when I was coming over. I opened the Ring app on my phone. The doorbell keeps footage for 60 days. I scrolled back to around 5:30 that evening, right after I'd texted her about working late. At 5:45, Sarah left her apartment. She was dressed up, full makeup, wearing the dress she usually saved for nights out. She got in her car and drove away. I kept scrolling through the footage. At 6:15, a car pulled up, and 3 of her friends got out, Jessica, Amanda, and Katie. They were all dressed up too, laughing, carrying what looked like bottles of wine. They went inside Sarah's apartment. I fast-forwarded. At 7:30, all four of them left together, piled into one car, and drove off. They looked like they were going to a club or bar. The footage showed them returning at 9:50, exactly 10 minutes before I arrived. They were stumbling slightly, clearly tipsy, laughing hysterically about something. Her friends stayed for maybe 5 minutes, then left. Sarah went inside, and I assume she turned off all the lights and ignored my knocking. I sat in my car until almost midnight, just processing everything. Then I drove home. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Sarah sent at 8 a.m. I can't believe you never showed up last night. I waited for you and you couldn't even bother to come see me. I feel so disrespected. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I took my time. I made coffee, ate breakfast, went for a run. Around noon, I finally replied, "We need to talk. Can you come to my place this afternoon?" She texted back within seconds, "Why should I come to you?" "You're the one who messed up." "Because I have something to show you." 2 p.m.? She agreed reluctantly. Update 1. Sarah arrived at my apartment at 2:15, already defensive. She walked in with her arms crossed, wearing sunglasses, even though it was cloudy outside. "So what was so important you couldn't just apologize over text?" she asked, dropping onto my couch. I sat across from her in the armchair. "I want to understand what happened last night. You posted that you were heartbroken and alone, but when I showed up at your apartment at 10:40, you didn't answer the door or your phone." She didn't miss a beat. "I fell asleep. I was exhausted from being so upset." "With all the lights off?" "Yes. I fell asleep on the couch in the dark. Is that a crime?" "Sarah, I have your Ring doorbell footage." Her face went completely white. She tried to recover quickly. "What are you talking about? That's an invasion of privacy. You added me to the app yourself, remember? So I could see when I was at your door?" She stood up. "I want you to delete that right now. You have no right. I watched you leave at 5:45, dressed up and ready for a night out. I watched your friends show up at 6:15 with wine. I watched all of you leave together at 7:30 and come back at 9:50, drunk and laughing. 10 minutes before I arrived." The room went silent. She just stood there, mouth opening and closing like she was trying to find words. "So I'm going to ask you again," I said, keeping my voice calm. "What happened last night?" She sat back down, taking off her sunglasses. Her eyes were clear, no signs of crying or sadness. "Okay, fine. Yes, I went out with my friends, but that doesn't change the fact that you're always prioritizing work over me. I had a client emergency. You knew that. There's always an emergency, David. There's always some excuse why you can't make time for me. This is the 3rd time in 2 years I've had to work late on a Friday." "The 3rd time. And every other time you said you understood." She shifted tactics. "I just wanted some sympathy. I wanted you to see how I feel when you're not around. By lying to hundreds of people online? By making me look like a neglectful boyfriend when you were literally out partying with your friends? It's not that big of a deal. People post dramatic stuff on social media all the time. But it wasn't just a dramatic post, Sarah. You made specific claims. You said I choose work over you every single time. You painted yourself as a victim. And when people asked if you were okay, what did you tell them?" She looked away. "I don't know, I didn't really respond to anyone." I pulled up my phone. "Actually, you responded to 17 different people. Let me read some." "Thank you, babe. I'm trying to stay strong, but it's hard. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this." He says he cares, but actions speak louder than words. Should I keep going? "Fine, I messed up. What do you want me to do? Post a public apology?" "I want to know why you did it." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that genuinely surprised me. "Because Marcus liked my last 3 posts, and I wanted to see if he'd comment on this one." "Who the hell is Marcus?" "A guy from work. He's been really nice to me lately." And there it was. The real reason. Not because she was actually upset about me working late, because she wanted attention from some guy at her office. Update 2. After Sarah admitted the Marcus thing, I asked her to leave. She tried to backtrack, saying it wasn't what it sounded like, that they were just friends, that she wasn't trying to make me jealous. But the damage was done. I told her I needed time to think, and she left crying, real tears this time. Over the next few days, I didn't post anything online. I didn't respond to any of the messages people had sent me about her post. I just stayed quiet. Sarah texted me constantly, apologies, explanations, promises that she'd delete the post and tell everyone the truth. I read every message, but didn't reply. On Tuesday, 4 days after the incident, Sarah posted again. This time it was a photo of us from 3 months ago, looking happy. The caption, taking a break from social media to focus on what really matters. Sometimes we all make mistakes, sending love to everyone who checked on me. She hadn't deleted the original post. She'd just buried it under a new one. And she still hadn't told the truth. That's when I decided to share my side. But I wasn't going to write some long defensive post. I was just going to share the facts. I posted a compilation video from her Ring doorbell footage. 5:45, Sarah leaving dressed up. 6:15, friends arriving with wine. 7:30, all of them leaving together. 9:50, them returning, laughing and stumbling. 10:40, me knocking on her door repeatedly with no answer. I added simple text overlays with timestamps and the caption, "This is what Heartbroken and Alone at Home looked like on Friday night." I'm done being made the villain in someone else's fabricated story. I posted it to my Instagram, Facebook, and even LinkedIn, since some of my professional contacts had seen her original post and commented asking if I was okay. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 2 hours, the video had been shared over 50 times. People who'd commented sympathetically on Sarah's original post started deleting their comments or posting new ones calling her out. Some of her friends who'd been in the video started getting tagged. Sarah called me screaming, "How could you do this? You've humiliated me. Everyone at my work is seeing this." "You humiliated me first, Sarah. You just didn't think there'd be consequences. Take it down! Take it down right now, or I swear, or you'll what? Post another lie about me?" She hung up. 20 minutes later, she'd deleted both of her Instagram posts and set her account to private. By Wednesday morning, the video had somehow made it to her workplace. Here's how I found out. I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a woman's voice said, "Hi, is this David? My name is Jennifer. I'm the HR director at Quantum Marketing. I'm calling about a situation involving one of our employees, Sarah Mitchell." My stomach dropped. Yes, this is David. Is Sarah okay?" "She's fine, but we've become aware of some social media posts that involved claims about personal relationships being made during work hours using company devices. Additionally, the posts were seen by several clients who follow our company page. We're conducting an internal review. I wanted to reach out because Sarah mentioned you might have additional context about the Ring camera footage that's been circulating." I explained everything calmly and professionally. Jennifer listened without interrupting. When I finished, she thanked me for my time and said they'd be in touch if they needed anything else. I didn't hear from Sarah for 3 days after that call. Update 3. On Saturday, exactly 1 week after the original incident, Sarah showed up at my apartment, unannounced. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside and let her in. She sat on the edge of my couch, hands folded in her lap. I got suspended from work. 2 weeks without pay. I didn't say anything. They said I violated the social media policy by posting personal content that reflected poorly on the company during work hours. Apparently, I posted that first photo during a client meeting on Friday afternoon. Someone noticed the timestamp and reported it. She laughed bitterly. "And Marcus, the guy I was trying to impress?" He's the one who showed your video to my boss, said he thought HR should know what kind of person they had representing the company. Sarah, no, let me finish. I've spent this whole week thinking I was the victim, that you overreacted, that you were cruel for posting that video. But Jessica, Amanda, and Katie all stopped talking to me. Jessica sent me a long text about how she felt used, that I'd dragged her into my drama without asking. My mom even called and said she was disappointed in me after seeing everything online. She wiped her eyes. I created this whole mess because I wanted attention. I wanted to feel special. I wanted Marcus to think I was worth fighting for, or whatever stupid fantasy I had in my head. And instead, I destroyed a good relationship, embarrassed myself publicly, and got suspended from my job. What do you want from me right now? I asked. I want to say I'm sorry. Really, genuinely sorry. Not because I want you back, because I know that's not happening, but because you deserved better than what I did to you. We talked for another hour. She admitted that the relationship with Marcus had been borderline emotional cheating for about a month. Lots of texting, some flirting, nothing physical, but definitely inappropriate. She said she'd felt insecure because I was doing well at work, and she felt stagnant at hers. She'd thought the social media sympathy would make her feel better, more valued. Before she left, she asked me one more thing. Are you going to keep the video up? I thought about it. I'll take it down in a few days. It's made its point. She nodded. Thank you. And David? I really am sorry. Final update. It's been 3 weeks now since everything imploded. I took down the ring footage video after 5 days, once I felt like my side of the story had been adequately shared. Sarah's account is still private, and from what I can tell through mutual friends, she's taken a complete break from social media. She completed her suspension and is back at work, but apparently things are awkward. Marcus transferred to a different department, not because of any disciplinary action, but because he requested it. I guess watching someone self-destruct for your attention makes you realize they're not actually worth pursuing. Sarah and I haven't spoken since that conversation at my apartment. I ran into Jessica at a coffee shop last week, and she apologized for her role in everything. She said she didn't know about the ring footage, or that Sarah had been lying about being alone that night. She felt manipulated and stupid for going along with what she thought was just a girls' night to cheer up her sad friend. As for me, I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually. I've been focusing on work, hanging out with friends who didn't immediately believe I was some neglectful boyfriend, and honestly, just enjoying not being in a relationship where I have to constantly prove my worth. The craziest part of all this? I got a LinkedIn message from someone who saw the whole saga unfold online. He owns a cybersecurity firm and asked if I'd be interested in consulting on a project about digital privacy and evidence documentation. Apparently, my handling of the situation impressed him from a technical standpoint. We've had 2 meetings, and it might turn into a serious contract. So yeah, Sarah wanted social media attention, and she definitely got it, just not the kind she wanted. I got vindication and possibly a new business opportunity. And somewhere out there, Marcus learned that being the guy a girl posts about isn't always the compliment you think it is.
Ever having experienced trauma, a lot of people will feel uncomfortable admitting and accepting that they have experienced some trauma. What are some of our misconceptions around what trauma is and how it affects us? And would you mind explaining what sort of experiences are defined as traumatic to help us expand our definition?
So most of us first heard the concept of sort of trauma as we're talking about it now in context of post-traumatic stress disorder and combat veterans. And so even within our field in psychiatry, the majority of people who studied trauma and looked at trauma were looking at the effects of these horrific events, exposure to combat, death of a soldier next to you, as the thing to understand around trauma. But over time, the people like me who were studying the stress response systems in animal models we're very well aware that it's not necessarily these big traumatic events that are easily identified by everybody as a trauma that will lead to the changes in the brain that cause the problems. And so certainly if you do have these events, that can be a problem. So natural disaster, house fire, car accident, abuse of all sorts, that's certainly traumatic. But probably the most important thing, and I think the thing that's impacting more children and adults than anything else, are experiences that are patterns of stress activation where you have no control over the experience. It's not predictable, and it's prolonged, it's ongoing. And I think to some degree, the experiences of the last year are an example for many people of a prolonged set of uncontrollable and unpredictable stressors. And we've all felt sort of our baseline level of tolerance is going down. We're a little bit more tired. We can handle situations a little bit less. And so what we've been studying is the combination of these experiences where you are not in control of your life. And it may be a child who's living in a domestic violence environment where he or she is not the direct target of all of this stuff, but there's so much unpredictability about when the fighting is going to happen. And there's so much unpredictability about whether mom is going to be in a good mood today or a bad mood, or dad's going to be angry or not angry. And that can lead to these physiological changes that increase your risk for physical health problems, mental health problems, and learning problems. And so that's kind of where we're moving in the field, is this recognition that you don't just have to have some sort of capital T trauma in your life to be impacted by trauma. And in fact, if you are a minority in a majority culture, you're going to get all kinds of experiences where you're getting these relational interactions that are sending the signal that you don't belong, which will activate your stress response, which can over time accumulate and influence your physical and mental health.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Perry, for illuminating on that point, because I think for so many of us, as you rightly just said there, we feel that trauma only means trauma with a capital T. And so we often disregard, we often let these things just fade away and, put them under the carpet and just not really give them enough emphasis and focus because we don't see them as being significant. And so, yes.